Get asked the question, when are you stopping, when are you retiring? I've been asked it for the last 6 to 8 years of my career because I'm getting old as a gymnast. Now I can actually be confident in my answer and I can get it off my chest and it's out there and I'm owning that decision. That's my decision and it feels right for me. I think doing something for so long, 24 years in sport, and saying publicly, basically like, it's my last competition. So I know this is really fast forwarding, but I think about this stuff, and say if she was like doing gymnastics really good level and she was doing an interview, I never want me to be brought up in that, because it's not me.
Okay, let's rewind back to your childhood. You grew up in Hemel Hempstead. Paint a picture of what childhood was like, and where does gymnastics come into it?
Okay, yeah, it's a good way of asking it. It's a good question. I think so. Yeah, I feel like very lucky. I had an amazing childhood, amazing upbringing, and so my brother done swimming. I naturally fell into swimming as well because he'd done it, because I was just following in those steps. And then I was 7 years old when a friend from the swimming club said I should try some gymnastics. It was in the same sports centre, so that's almost how it come about, and it's almost a bit of luck when you look at it like that. And he got me to try a few little skills. So my mum said he got me to try a few skills just there and then, and almost could pick up stuff quite quickly. And he said, okay, we need to get into the gym. So yeah, started gymnastics, and my brother done it too at the same time. And I just loved it. Like, I feel like I got hooked on the sport very quickly and obsessed with it because you're just constantly learning. You're constantly learning new stuff, and you're constantly getting that kind of real kind of sense of improvement, sense of achievement every day, especially as a young gymnast when there's thousands of things to learn. When you get going and you step foot into the gym for the first day, like, you almost feel like the world's your oyster, and you're just going along this path where you can just learn some new skills. And
you can really play as well, isn't it? That I think walking into that kind of gym, there are just a million and one things that you can do, and suddenly you're allowed to just go a little bit crazy as well. Were you ever worried about the dangerous side of it, or do you think that's also something that's so good about getting into it at a young age, is you kind of just go for it and you're not really fear?
You don't care at a young age, do you? Like, no fear, just going into a gym environment where everything's soft and you can just throw yourself about. And it's just fun. Like, it's just fun to go into there and do some stuff. So I started in a recreational program and was in there for a little bit, and then quickly moved into a squad group. And yeah, I think no fear as a kid in sport is sometimes exactly what you need. Yeah, so it just wasn't even a thought process. It was just going and try and throw some stuff.
So your brother Ben, was there kind of healthy competition there where you're the younger one? So were you trying to kind of catch up with him, or were you always better?
No, he was a lot better than me, especially when it comes to handstand. So like, we always used to do like handstand walking competitions everywhere. Like, I remember it on holidays and at home and everywhere. And he always used to beat me. And then I think then he got quite bored of, like, he just started not liking it. He almost got bored of the repetitiveness within the sport at that point. And I loved it. So that eventually switched, which I just done more and more of it. And then I got to 9 years old, and then I made a GB squad at 9. And that was a choice where I had to then pick swimming or gymnastics. And I was faced with that choice because my hours just kept ramping up really quick in gym, and I wouldn't be able to manage both. So
okay, so as a 9-year-old, paint a picture. What were the hours like?
Oh, if I'm guessing, I think they would have been. I think I was in recreation for about 3 months, and then about 9 years old, I was probably doing about 15 hours a week. It was after school, and then that would be ramping up more. And then I'm guessing now, so if I got to like 10, 11 years old, I'd be 20 hours plus. And then it got to highs of 35 hours, 6 days a week. Yeah, when I was older.
Were you always enjoying it then?
Loving it. That's the only reason why I'd done it. I think I felt very, very lucky to find something that I loved, enjoyed going in, enjoyed learning new stuff, got a different circle of friends, like, every day of the week. And like, what more can you want as a kid that was going to school, loving it, hanging out with friends there, immediately finish school and go straight to gym and do gym, something else you enjoy. So I never saw it as something like, oh, I've got to go gym today or anything like that. It was just something else I'm going to love and enjoy doing.
What did the other kids at school think? Like, surely you were walking in doing some pretty cool tricks.
So I did some tricks when they asked to see some stuff, but that was about it. Someone just walking to school doing some stuff.
Sorry, I'm just coming in for registration via handstand. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but they thought it was cool. I could do stuff that most people at school couldn't do, and I remember doing like flicks, like the whole length of the AstroTurf and stuff like that. But yeah, like I was a shy kid, so I wasn't a shy. So I'd only do something if someone peer pressured me into do it. Basically, I was a really kind of reserved, shy kid that, yeah, big time.
Okay, I want to ask 2 questions off the back of that, but firstly, I'll start with: do you think, from how successful you've been, that you've paved the way for young boys to get more into gymnastics?
I'd like to think I played a part, and that feels amazing to have done that. I think.
Was there any stigma when you first got into it, or not really?
There was for a lot of people.
Okay.
I feel like I was almost one of the lucky ones that was in school. Anywhere I was, they saw it as cool. I couldn't pinpoint the reason why I had that experience, and then some people had the other experience where they got a bit of stick because people thought it was a girls' sport and all that stuff. But I do feel like it's changed massively. So, for example, proof is that I don't get the question as much anymore, but it's still there slightly. And I feel like the change has come from producing results.
Yeah.
So, along with the other guys and the team, we've now produced results for 10 to 15 years, which that makes a big impact, and that inspires people. And we see it off the back of every Olympic Games, the kind of the kids that then take up the sport, participation rockets, waiting lists go through the roof, and so many girls, of course, but so many boys want to start the sport because they've seen it and they think it's cool. And
it's so important, I think, to be able to see yourself represented. So women's football after Euros went through the roof, because it's so nice to be able to know that there's no barriers to that. Going back to you being a shy kid, how was the competition side of things then? Were you nervous or apprehensive, or is gymnastics, Max, kind of different?
I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what my mum. Did you ask my mum that question?
No, I didn't, but maybe I will go back and ask her.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what she thinks of that. I feel like I was more of a shy kid, like obviously day-to-day stuff, but I feel like when I go into the gym, and when I go into competitions, of course I felt nerves. I still feel nerves even today and anything I do. But I think nerves are normal, but I feel like competing and stuff is a very different ballgame for me. So I felt so shy in terms of outside of the sport, going into it. So my coach talks about a story of me being anxious about going into a shop to buy a chocolate bar because of the interaction with the person behind the counter. And you only think about never the shyness, but yet then I was competing in a sport that's judged on the aesthetic appearance of what you're doing in your performance and what it looks like, watched by a viewing gallery and judged by a panel of judges. I feel like maybe, there was a bit of a disconnect in a really positive way.
There's a moment when I was watching the compilation of videos where when you finish your routines and you do the kind of this moment,
what is it?
It's like to finish. You say, thank you very much for watching my performance. You always do this at the end, like just a moment afterwards, and it's really nice to see because the image of you as an athlete, you just get a tiny glimpse of, you did a good job. Yeah. So it's almost like seeing that kind of mask a little bit fade away. Yeah,
I suppose that's an interesting point, because any result that I've done, which you would have seen if you watched that video, I think, some people react differently. People are different people, aren't they? So if people go and get their first Olympic medal, they might be running around the arena going absolutely mental. And that might literally just let their emotions take over and things like that, and just whatever happens naturally. And I've always just been someone that, my biggest celebration, people take the mick out of me all the time because I won Olympic gold and I just went, and that was it. Like, just fist pump, small fist pump. And that was me. I was pleased. And it's not almost downplaying the moment or it doesn't mean much to me. It's actually just, that's who I am as a person. Like, I'm just trying to take it all in my stride. If you think about that whole process of the whole build up towards that moment where you have to perform, for me, I'm so kind of calculating what I do. I'm so routine, I'm so regimented and structured, and I have certain ways I'm specific, like with everything I do. Like, when it comes to the moment where it all plays out and you get an Olympic gold medal and your performance is the best you could ever do, for me, it's almost still this process. Like, it's almost like I don't then fully relax and I'm like, that's it.
So it doesn't feel over, even though...
No, I think it's a weird thing, and it's almost like that's me as a person. I'm just like, take it in a stride, go with the flow, do each bit, and almost just never let kind of those emotions just erupt, which I feel like that's one point. Maybe if I look back now, it's almost one point that's helped me move forward from stuff. So I never rest or leave my hat on one result. I'm always just like, okay, that's done. What's the next thing? And just keep almost just moving like that. It's all a process, next stepping stone. And just I almost never take much in, just keep moving forwards, which has positives, but also has kind of some negatives and challenges too.
What would you say the positives are, and what would you say negatives and challenges are?
So the positives, I'd say, it helps me move forwards. It helps me move forwards and just not think, because I think when you get a result, especially something like an Olympic medal or become world champion, anything like that, I know it sounds obvious, but it's really, really clear when you see some people, it stops there. Or it literally compounds and it just builds, and you kind of almost use that result to then move forwards and then build on it. And for me, I feel like if you almost be like, okay, done that, park it, let's go, next thing. It helps you achieve more. But the challenge I felt was after the Tokyo Olympics was somewhere there I fell into a rut and I really struggled mentally. And I look back and think, well, yeah, it's almost because I never reflected in that way. In any part of my career, I'm always looking forward. And I felt so lost in that moment and felt like a failure, even though I just retained an Olympic title, because I was looking forward. And I didn't have a plan, I didn't have a vision, I didn't have targets I wanted to achieve, and I thought I was done with the sport. So all of a sudden, that whole kind of pathway where I'm looking forward had gone. And I didn't base myself on what I'd done previously. I always base myself on what I do there. So in that part, it was a challenge, because without looking back and just looking forward, if there's nothing there, then you feel like a complete waste of space.
What do you think you've learned from that period of time?
I've taken some learnings from it, I think, and I'm almost more realistic in terms of how I feel, being almost, I suppose, still not looking back too much, but being more present. I think that's helped me a lot. So I still look forwards, I'm competitive, I still want to achieve results, that's why I'm still going in sport. But I think being more present, being more okay with how I'm feeling, and just being more, I suppose, realistic and just honest has helped me massively off the back of that, because I just almost used to hide all these feelings when I was struggling maybe, and just always think, I'm good, let's go. And I think that's where I come into a bit of a spot where it just all crumbled.
When I spoke to your mum, who is an angel from the above, she was saying that she would take you to training, and it would take an hour to get there, and then she would stay there for 7 hours and then drive you home. The gem of all gems. Can you talk to me a bit about how she's supported you, how your family have supported you? Because obviously, yes, you're the Olympic athlete, but there's a team behind Olympians.
Yeah, and the team behind me, I wouldn't be anywhere near where I am today if I didn't have the people around me. So I feel, like I say, I talk about my upbringing, I feel very, very extremely lucky. Almost when my sport started to get a little bit more serious, my parents and I just remember a really clear thing saying that, at that point you couldn't make a career out of gymnastics at all. So you couldn't, there was no option of gaining sponsorship, there was no option of funding and to support the training, it just wasn't there. So they almost supported me from a very, very early stage and said, if gymnastics is what you want to do, we'll support you. And for me, and for a young kid, it's obviously huge, because you think about, okay, well, I can just carry on doing what I love doing. But you almost don't think about it too much until you get older. And then when it kicked in to my mum, I moved gyms, and then my mum was driving me to gym. Would leave school early. My school was hugely supportive as well. Leave school at 12 o'clock. My mum would pick me up outside the school gates, and we'd drive to gym, take an hour to get here to South Essex. I'd train from 1 till 8, and then my mum would wait that whole time. And then I would drive home. I'd probably usually leave at 8:30 and then get home 9, half 9. We'd do 6 days a week. I'll be training, and she would just do it like all the time. And I just think now, like, that commitment from my mum, my family, and my dad, who was supporting me working all these hours to support the cost of that, and then my brother supporting me in terms of, like, he knows like so much about gymnastics just from watching it now and just taking it all in, like predicting scores and supporting me coming to every comp. I feel like, I'm extremely, extremely lucky to have the support around me and the commitment from them. I look back now and just think it was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, people talk about how did I stay committed? Like, training all that time, 35 hours a week, 6 days a week for so many years. For me, it's like, I look back now and think, how did everybody around me stay so committed to enable me to do that? And that's crazy.
Did you ever have a backup plan? Were there ever any moments where you thought, okay, is this forever? If like you're saying from the off, it maybe didn't seem that it was going to be plausible to make career or money.
Yeah.
Not what you're necessarily thinking at.
Not what I was thinking about, no. But I think it almost just, as you get older, that back of your mind, knowing that they said, they'll support me if that's what I want to do.
Do you know what? I asked this question to a lot of different kinds of successful people.
Yeah.
And often the answer is no, and I think then it's almost foolproof because there's no plan B. Yeah, it has to be plan A.
Yeah. It's hard because if I think about advising people, like, because a lot of people come up to me and ask, like, what they think of this and what they think in terms of the routes they want to take and stuff like this. And advising people to go solely on a plan A, it holds a lot of risk. Of course it does. But I think that was my mindset. Like, I wanted to do gym. I loved what I was doing. I wanted to be like the best I could be at it and put all my effort into it. Mm-hmm. So I didn't think about a plan A, whether it doesn't go right and whether, okay, well, 10 years down the line, if it hasn't gone to plan, then what am I going to like? I didn't think about it.
No.
I just, day by day, tried to do better and tried to keep doing that and just follow that.
And what about with injuries? Do you just have to be... Was that ever a fear that crossed your mind? Or again, that's something that you take day by day? If something happens, then...
Something happens and it's going to happen. You're never going to go through your whole career without injuries. But again, I didn't think about it. It just didn't come into my mind. I just loved what I was doing and trained as hard as I can. So yeah, of course, along the journey, along this whole 24 years, I've had many injuries, but different parts of the body: knee, ankles, wrists, elbows, back. But you just deal with it. And I think, especially as a gymnast, so if you walked into a gym, sometimes you'd probably see kids in there with a cast on, but they're still in the gym. They're still training, because if you've got a cast on your leg, you broke your leg, you can still do upper body stuff. If you've got a cast on your arm because you broke your arm, you can still do lower body stuff. So you can always work around and almost see times where you have injuries or opportunities to work on maybe your weaker parts that you can strengthen, to potentially then come back after an injury in a better position than you was before. So injuries aren't so much of a negative thing. They can be setbacks, but they can be setbacks where it can give you a chance to work on other bits to make you better in the overall bigger picture.
Let's talk about the Olympics. So your first Olympics was London.
Yeah.
What was that like? Also to do it on home turf, but also you were so young. Like, what's the thought process and what did you take away from that experience?
19 years old at that time, London 2012 was coming around, and it was just almost a bit of a whirlwind. Like, home games is such a rare opportunity. People are so lucky to have the opportunity to go to home games in a whole lifetime. And yeah, it was, I suppose I started thinking about wanting to go to London 2012 when I was about 17 years old-ish. So really late. I never was a gymnast, a young kid that thought, yeah, I want to go to Olympics one day. I just did what I did. And then 17 years old, I kind of turned senior, and London 2012 was on my sights. So I was actually not far out from London 2012 and trying to do all these competitions in the world to try and prove myself and why I should be in the team. I was actually told by the team selector at the time that 2012 is not my cycle. So basically saying that they're very unlikely to pick me. And I remember having that meeting and saying back, I want it to be, so I'm going to do my very best, basically. And it come round, and then, made the team very unexperienced in the grand scheme of things. I was reserved for the World Championships before, so I hadn't done a World Championships. I hadn't done like anything like that really before. And I got the phone call a month before the Olympic Games to say I'm in. And just crazy experience. Like, it almost gave me such a big platform to then, like when I talk about using results to go forward and try and do more, that was the best platform I could have ever asked for. Because a home crowd, like, I remember times where it wasn't even just like a cheer, it was like a constant loud roar sound. It just like but just before you're about to do your routine. And if you can deal with that, there's going to be no audience that will ever come close to it, because you just can't beat a home crowd. So almost just give us all this platform where we not only had this experience that we can really use, but we got our first team medal in something like 108 years, and then I got my bronze medal on the pommel, which, I was first told I wouldn't be in a team, and I was also told that I wouldn't medal on the pommel horse. And I did both of them. So I think for me, it just built my confidence up so much to then go, okay, along this next 4 years, me and my coach Scott sat down and thought, right, what do we want to do? And we set a solid plan to just like real strong targets, what we want to achieve along that pathway.
What is it like competing at the Olympics behind the scenes? So tell me a bit about the Olympic Village. In my head, I see it as a bit of a boarding school, but I know that that's probably like miles off. And like, do the athletes have like movie nights, like you all pals, or is it really strict?
It's hard. I think a lot of people work differently. So when you step foot into the village, obviously this is like accommodating like 20,000 people in one place. So you basically got full of apartment blocks, biggest canteen you'll ever see in your life, that type of thing. And there's you have areas where it's like chilled areas where anyone can go to, and there's like entertainment stuff in there and stuff like that. But I think everybody works differently, and it's really hard, because actually, like, Leah, my wife, asked me like not even that long ago, like, I bet it's cool like just going comps and going away, because you're with the guys, you're just with the team, and you get a lot of downtime and stuff. And it's like, it's amazing, and I love that side of it. I love spending time with the guys and the team and stuff. But it's not like just going to chill. You've almost got this thing that's 24/7 in the back of your mind of what's coming up, and every day is preparing for that. So whether you're in the gym or out the gym to prepare for the competitions coming around, you do not switch off. And I know some athletes work differently, and some athletes are probably better at switching off and stuff like that, but also some athletes don't want to switch off. So you've got to almost really tread really carefully around everyone, because everyone has got a big job to do, and they're preparing for it in the best way possible. And you almost just go around a bit careful, just mind your own business in a way as well. So a bit of a weird dynamic. How
do you sleep in the lead up to a competition? Do you sleep well, or does that kind of play on your mind?
Previous experiences, if you take it back, basically before I had Willow's 5 years old now, I would be sleeping 11, 12 hours a night. And that very quickly changed when Willow was born, and reduced a lot. So I feel like now the opportunity to have a full night's sleep is at competitions, which you get a massive benefit from.
So true.
So almost like when it comes around close to comps, I can have a bit more of a lie-in, I can do that type of stuff. So so a lot of people would say their sleep is kind of not so good because their mind's always switched on, but my mind's switched on 24/7, 365 days a year. When I'm actually at comps, I have opportunity to not get up as early. So I'd like to. Previous experiences, it's improved.
Did that change how you approach the sport, having a child?
Massively. I think everyone says it, but puts a lot of things into perspective. And I suppose gymnastics has always been such a big priority for me. Like when I come home from gym, and if I've got comps coming up, like I'm careful not to do too much like outside of the sport to make sure that I'm like recovering enough and all that stuff. And it still is up there with the priority list. It has to be. But when you have a child and anything like that, nothing comes close. So although gymnastics is such a high priority for me, if you put a scale there and where Willow sits on that, it would blow it all out of the park. So I feel like that massively helps me in the sport as well. Because I come home, if I had a bad session, Willow's excited to see me. If I had a good session, Willow's excited to see me. And she doesn't care if I've had a bad session or not. If I've done good in a comp, great, and she loves to see the medals and stuff. But she absolutely thinks I've done amazing, even if I haven't as well. Like she almost just like sees me as this thing, even like we're playing little games and stuff like that. She thinks I win everything, which I want to keep that for as long as possible. So I'll try and keep that up in the sport. But I think like she almost just sees me as this superhero, which for me feels like amazing. Like because she just goes around. We don't even push it either. Like we hardly ever talk about it. Like I never really think about results or talk about results, but she just almost loves the fact that I'm an Olympic champion and world champion.
Yeah.
And she says it. So I feel like she's so proud of it. And I feel like for me, just being able to like continue in the sport now and her having the opportunity to then, come and watch me in Paris feels amazing.
Do you think that she might follow in your footsteps? Because Leah was also a gymnast, is also a gymnast.
Leah was a gymnast, then coached it a lot.
Is that how you two met?
Yeah, so we met, in the gym. So when I moved to South Essex, Leah was already training at a gym. And that's how we met. And I think it's such a hard question in terms of will I follow my footsteps, or do we want Willow to follow my footsteps? And I get asked it all the time. She does gymnastics now, and I think it's one of the best and most important sports for young kids. I feel like it lays this unbelievable foundation. So there's obviously she does what she'll want to do and what she enjoys doing, but gymnastics has to be a staple part of that when she's young. But she also, so she does gymnastics, swimming, tennis, trampolining, dancing. She went skiing on the weekend, so we're trying to pick that up more regularly. So she's so busy. But I got one person say to me a few years back, but if she's a gymnast and she doesn't get gold, then and instantly I was like, oh, I hate that. I absolutely hate that. I got this big rush of just this horrible feeling come over me. And I thought, that puts me off so much to think that she would be in the spotlight not only from day one, pressure from day one, pressure to live up to what I've done feels horrible. And for me to be like, so I know this is really fast forwarding, but I think about this stuff. And say if she was like doing gymnastics really good level and she was doing an interview, I'd never want me to be brought up in that, because it's not me. So I hate the thought of that. So yeah, gymnastics amazing, and if she wants to pick and do it and continue it, then that's great. But I feel like giving her the options to do as many options as different sports as possible is great. And I almost feel like if she does a sport that we don't know too much about, that's a real positive.
How are you preparing at the moment? Talk to me a bit about how your life looks before the Olympics.
Okay, yeah, so it's ramping up basically. Training load is ramping up. Basically, so I train, like I talked about my hours previously, being 35 hours a week, 6 days a week. It doesn't look anything like that anymore. So because I'm 7-8 years over peak age, I've had to basically taper off each year. So my hours have reduced. So I do 4 days a week and maximum 4 hours a day each time. And if you work that out, that is such little training for a gymnast. But my recovery has rocketed through the roof. So I go into the gym, I practice my stuff, I build up depending on what phase you're in. And right now we're kind of building a routine together. So building the stamina like that, building the fitness and building the consistency with the skills, and just repetitions all the time in the gym. And when I come out, it's basically every single way that I can recover to make the next session better. Whether that's icing, whether that's sauna, whether that's just chilling.
Is that why you've got the hot tub?
Yeah. So it's any kind of thing that I can do to make myself and my body feel better. And to be honest, a big part of that is just coming home and just chilling with the family. So I think, my days are pretty jam-packed. We're also trying to, run our company that we set up last year and do all this stuff. So almost minute by minute, it's every part of my day has a kind of a purpose.
Where do you keep your medals?
To be honest, they move around. They're not like, I don't have like this specific place.
Not under lock and key.
No, they're not. But everyone laughs because when I take my medals out to like an appearance or a master show them and stuff, I carry them and I take them around and they're wrapped up in socks. So I figured they're clean socks, but that's the best way.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, it's the best way for them to stay protected, because you get these really nice, fancy like presentation boxes.
But they're heavy to lug around, or big.
They're big and they're hassle because then
Not
you have to fold them up, and put them in a specific way.
Unlike a pair of socks.
You just wrap it up.
Yeah, ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay, you've decided to retire after Paris.
I have.
Why did you make that decision, and what is life going to look like for you afterwards?
Yeah, so it's a big thing for me. I think doing something for so long, 24 years in sport, and saying publicly, basically like, it's my last competition, it was a big thing. But I feel like, and a lot of people have asked me why, because they feel like actually that might add pressure onto me. People always think in their heads, you want to finish on a high, so does that add pressure? Like for me, I think that whole thing is finishing on a high. I think that's just something that people say and people have cottoned on to, that, yeah, they want to do it. But realistically, of course I do. But I feel like it's not added pressure on, it's actually done the opposite. So I feel like I get asked the question, when are you stopping, when are you retiring? I've been asked it for the last 6 to 8 years of my career because I'm getting old as a gymnast. And now I can actually be confident in my answer and I can get it off my chest and it's out there and it's like, yeah, I'm owning that decision. That's my decision and it feels right for me. I nearly retired and stopped. I'd call it quitting if I look back now after Tokyo because of the fear of failure moving forwards. I've then come back and I now have the opportunity and a challenge ahead that I can go and try and make history in Paris. And very nearly didn't get the opportunity because I nearly quit. So for me, it feels amazing just to be in with a chance to kind of grab that opportunity with 2 hands and go and make the most of what I can. Sport is sport and my competitive never stops. I get massive motivation from trying to retain titles. So there's no doubt that that's my target in Paris, but I'm going to go and give it my best shot. And that feels like the right time for me to say, that's my last and final chapter of my career, which, yeah, I think almost doesn't probably feel like it's hit me yet because it hasn't happened. But I think when I come back from Paris, it may feel a little bit more real. And I struggled with the feeling like the lack of targets, the lack of like process and what I'm used to. I struggled with that after Tokyo, and that's one reason why I come back into the sport. But I think this time I had that learning curve after that period, and that period where I did struggle, I've learned a lot from. That's why I'm so busy right now, because setting stuff up, I really want to kind of further the impact that I've built, feel like I've had the honour of having for young children in sport and getting them involved in sport, specifically obviously gymnastics, and then the benefits they can get from it. So I want to further that impact and actually give children a vehicle to do it and expand on what we're doing now. So that's why we're so busy with our company and what we're doing within schools and young children and trying to help them utilise what gymnastics can bring to them. So I'm massively passionate about that, and I think if you have a passion that you know that you're ready to jump into after, that transition period feels a lot easier.